Thank you, Amanda. Today we continue to follow our local fire department. We're joined by Chief Voisine, and we're going to talk a little bit about his nomination to a Canadian board. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. The Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs is a national board. We deal with a number of fire-related issues, especially with relations to the federal government. I was recently nominated as their treasurer, so probably the position that requires the most work. Counting stuff, I can count, so I'm happy to be part of that group. The other members of that board include the president, who's the fire chief for the city of Edmonton, and the other members at large are the Chatham-Kent fire chief, Calgary, the city of Calgary assistant deputy chief, fire chief in St. Julie, and Grand Falls, Newfoundland. So good representation across the country.
Now, Chief, when we look at this board, maybe you can elaborate to our viewers a little bit about what entails in that position, as well as what it's all about. Maybe you can explain that to our viewers.
Well, the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs has been around since the early 1900s, and we do a number of things. The most recent major project would have been the volunteer tax credit. Something we lobbied the federal government for, basically helping those who work as volunteer firefighters get some sort of tax relief. So that was a successful project. We were intimately involved in some of the regulation recommendations that came out of the railway incident in eastern Quebec. And a number of other things. We're going to be focusing on mental health for first responders, specifically firefighters, and other projects such as fire protection in Aboriginal communities.
Now, I must say, Chief, congratulations first and foremost. I should have said that from the top of the show. But when we look at your appointment and nomination to the board, that is a compliment also for this area that we have now that recognition across Canada.
Absolutely, and a lot of it is. I've been in and out of that board for probably the last 12, 13 years, but the biggest advantage is the relationships. When something arises, you have a number of people you can just pick up the phone and call and find out what's happening in some of these bigger cities as well. So absolutely, and the other advantage for the organization, the Cornwall Fire Services, we're in the know, right? If something's happening somewhere, we know about it simply because of the interactions that we have. So it's beneficial, absolutely is.
Now, Chief, moving on a little bit, obviously you've been here for a little bit now, but you've made some great changes. And one of the things that you wanted to do when you came to Cornwall was a little more training locally. And I know a lot of people sometimes wonder why we see these fire trucks coming off onto Brookdale near the 401 exit. Maybe you can elaborate to our viewers who are not in the know what that's all about.
Well, we've got a couple, absolutely. So the Fire Master Plan outlines training as one of the biggest issues that we needed to deal with. So we're working on putting those plans together. The other aspect was having access to a training, simulation, and buildings, and the infrastructure that goes with that. It'd be nice if we could just spend the dollars and start building multi-million-dollar facilities, but that's just not logical necessarily. So what we've done is we've got a couple of things going on. We've partnered with the folks that own an old heritage home on Brookdale near the 401, and we've been putting a little bit of time in renovating and preparing that to be used for training. So it's the house is made safe. The firefighters will be going there and taking on a whole bunch of different training activities, and we'll be using that till essentially that house can't be used anymore. The other thing that we've been working on is a training facility built out of shipping containers that's going to go up on Saunders, so at 244 Saunders, where the old soccer bubble used to be. We're going to be using part of that land to build a made-to-issue training facility. And we're doing that, that's part of a project that we've undertaken, we're doing that without using city funds, right? So we've had a number of donations that have come our way in building this facility. So for example, Envionics out of Morrisburg donated a couple of portables, big portables that we'll be able to use, one as a classroom and one as a training building. Well, that's great, but you need to get them there. So Herb's Towing was nice enough to donate their time to move the building. So 4 different buildings moved over to Saunders. And I'll tell you, I spent a day working, or a couple of days working with those guys to strap these buildings, lift them, and I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing. Those guys work hard, and it was really nice of them to help us out. We've since received money from Enbridge. We've received money from Energy East. We've gotten a wonderful donation of a propane training simulator. So basically it's a propane-driven fires, there are vehicle fires, tank fires, and that was donated to us by Guy Marchand, the owner of Budget or P38 Propane. So there's a number of these great people that have been lining up to help us out in the goal of building this self-contained training area, built of sweat, tears, and some money from the public or the outside.
And Chief, before we wrap it up, I just want to stress again that the public is a great partner with the fire department.
Absolutely. They've been supportive from day one, from our fire prevention to our response. We've always gotten a whole bunch of stuff, in-kind support from the public, from the commercial owners of various businesses in the city, and we really appreciate it. In fact, we want to give back a little bit. So I brought you the first out-of-the-box beanie cap of the Cornwall Fire Service. The only deal is you have to put it on right now, though.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that. I'm not sure how great I look, but I'm going to look better with this, I can assure you.
Look at that.
Thank you, Chief.
Perfect.
And today we're talking your local community fire department with Chief Voisine. I'm Todd Lalonde for Local Matters.